there will always be teams that are looking for Kirk Cousins. I would roll the dice on this and move on and draft a quarterback.
Welcome into another Purple Insider Extra. Jonathan Harrison here, joined once again by Purple Insider's Matthew Coller. And you wrote about Kirk Cousins' contract status and whether the two sides will actually pick up negotiations in March, as the quarterback suggested last week at OTAs. Now I'm going to place you in the shoes of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and the Vikings ownership. What would you do if you were the one running the franchise and you were tasked with coming up with a decision on what to do with Kirk Cousins' future?
Yeah, I think that it's probably best, if I was in those shoes, I would say, to move on after this season, regardless of the outcome. Because even if they have a very good season, win the division, go to the playoffs, and say they even win a playoff game, that's the farthest they've gotten. So let's say that they even do that, just like they did in 2019. If you're trying to project forward of what Kirk Cousins is going to be into the future, it's hard to say when a quarterback is going to be 36, 37, 38 years old, what they're going to be, even if the guy is in really good shape and hasn't missed games or anything like that. And he is statistically coming off of a season that was lower in some of the metrics than any of his previous seasons before with the Vikings, despite the fact they had all those fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives and everything else. But when you're trying to make projections down the road and deciding how much money are we going to commit, it gets more difficult to do that at a certain age. And also, I do think if they were able to achieve all that I laid out, that would speak really well to where they were in their competitive rebuild. And it probably means that Brian Flores worked out pretty well. Jordan Addison was good. The running game bounced back after a down year last year with these new running backs, and a lot of things went right for them to be that good. So you could make the case, well, why not run it back with Kirk? But I think we've heard why not run it back with Kirk a bunch of times, right? And I think also if you can take a young quarterback and put him into a position with star receivers, an offensive line that's growing together, and time that out with when the defense is going to improve and then be able to put money into the roster, that's how we've seen a lot of teams succeed. It's not just tanking necessarily. It's really timing things out. And even just thinking about the Carolina Panthers, where they're not exactly someone you try to follow their model, but at the same time, they've drafted a bunch of defensive players and then they get the quarterback to drop in. Now, if you can skip the Sam Darnold part and skip the Teddy Bridgewater part of that timeline, but the Vikings kind of can if they can be in position to draft a quarterback for next year where their roster is going to be peaking when that young quarterback will. So that would be my best case scenario plan. But I do think there is a situation where Cousins plays so well and they put themselves right on the cusp of looking like they could be a great team for next year. It might depend on what Fields and Jordan Love do. And they would say, all right, maybe we're going to have to do this. But also on the other side of things, you could see Kirk Cousins saying, no, I'm good. You guys wouldn't commit before after a 13-win season, and I'm going to just go hit free agency and see who's out there because we know this. There will always be teams that are looking for Kirk Cousins. The Vikings once upon a time were. The New Orleans Saints signed Derek Carr, who's basically his AFC doppelganger until he joined the Saints. And there's always going to be somebody who feels like they're a quarterback away. So I would roll the dice on this and move on and draft a quarterback. But I do think that there is a scenario where they could change course depending on how close this roster and this team appears to be.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.